What is up, fellow Kryptonians? Welcome to a video I didn't even think I was going to do today. So, I'm going to look at and, well, first of all, react and then do a breakdown of the Superman and Lois episode 2 trailer. But what I didn't know about this originally is that it's got some footage for the rest of the season, I believe, which is what encouraged me to do my reaction to this and then just, I don't know, geek out about it with you guys following the premiere of the show yesterday, obviously. And if you haven't seen my review, check it out, by the way. I did a review and breakdown. It's quite a long one, but it was quite a long episode, so you know how it is. But yeah, like the video. If you do go on to enjoy this, make sure you let me know your thoughts on what the heck we're about to see. And yeah, subscribe for more Superman and Lois.
And now, an exclusive sneak peek at what's
Captain
to come
Luthor
on Superman and Lois.
Oh, okay. What's to come?
After my father died, I felt pretty lost. I had a lot of questions about who I was, why I could do the things I could do. So I came here, found my answers.
You brought your son to me. Why?
Each power comes with its own burden. It's not just what you do, it's also what you don't do.
What's the point of having something special if you're not allowed to be special?
When your dad gets distracted, lives are at stake.
I know you can hear the bomb in my ship. Who the hell is Superman? Me or them? Make a choice.
Everything you do is a mistake.
I don't know
God
my
damn
kids
it.
or anyone.
Kylo, Kent.
I don't like his priorities changing.
It's called being a father.
Damn.
I'm not throwing away time with my family. But if anything goes wrong, I will be there.
Superman and Lois, new series Tuesdays at 9, 8 Central, only on the CW.
Okay, that was really, really impressive. Honestly, we got a lot more than what I thought there. We got a lot more of a preview in terms of what the show's about there, obviously, but just more of Clark struggling to balance the duality of himself, Superman, and Clark, the dad, Clark. Got more of, which I found interesting, these comparisons online. Kylo Kent, Jordan. You know, if you've seen Kylo Ren in the sequels, you kind of understand the comparisons there. Traitor! But what was really fascinating to me is Clark taking Jordan to the Fortress of Solitude. And there's a lot for me to break down, so I'm going to watch this a couple more times and then we're going to get into it. What I really enjoy about those first lines from Tyler Hoechlin's Clark is like, when my father died, I didn't know who I was really lost, and then that leads into the little glide into the Fortress of Solitude there, and it's very true, because when Clark's father died, Jonathan, like we saw in episode 1 with the heart attack in Smallville, it was kind of a springboard to him finding out who he truly is, and him going to the Fortress of Solitude, as you should all know, is the thing that really kickstarted the whole Superman vibe, helped him find himself, helped find his purpose. And if there's one person we know who is struggling with that right now, especially after finding out that he's, at least at the minute, the one who's showing the most of the Kryptonian genes, and that is Jordan. So not only is he always his whole life felt probably like the outcast, his brother is his brother, he's a nice brother, but he's also a bit of a jockey jerk brother. He's always probably felt in his brother's shadow, and whether that's popularity or just fitting in with anything. So that's what I really dig about the dynamic this brings to the show with these kids. But now, the one who has felt in the shadow has got the powers, and we see him going to the Fortress of Solitude with his father. Now, it's going to be so interesting to see what Jor-El has to say about him, just because we do actually hear his voice, and he says, "You have brought your son to me. Why?" It almost sounds like a Dark Lord Sauron kind of. It's weird. Obviously, Jor-El isn't going to be like that. And surely, Jor-El, you should know, like, if Clark's going to bring a biological son to you, why do you think he's done that? It's because he's got the freaking. I don't know. This is going to be an interesting thing as well, because in episode 1, Lois and Clark spoke about Jonathan, since there was undoubtedly super strength that threw the American football into the tire swing rope. Like, that rope was fine, then it just got obliterated. Back on point, they spoke about the Fortress test saying unlikely to him having abilities, because obviously that would have been something Clark and Lois did when they were younger, just to make sure they're not going to present any powers. They would have somehow got them both tested for the likelihood of presenting Kryptonian abilities on Earth. So I'm just wondering now if Jor-El just thinks, "Why have you brought your son to me?" Because they've probably been over this before, like 10 years ago or something, when the kids were only a few years old. "I've already told you it's unlikely they show abilities, Clark." And then, all lo and behold, oh crap, we're dealing with a half-human, half-Kryptonian 14-year-old presenting presenting powers. Not only presenting powers as well, but differently to what Clark was used to, because he said that in episode 1 as well. I'm really fanboying out about seeing Tyler kind of talk about the powers. He's saying each power is kind of about what you do, but also what you don't do. It's like hearing Superman teach. I don't think I've really properly seen that before, especially obviously not in live action. So it's pretty crazy to think that we're going to get like a discussion on the powers. Maybe each power, it's important what you do with them, but also what you don't do with them is just as effective, arguably, because it must be tempting to use all of your superpowers. If you are Superman, you think, oh, I'm going to just try everything, throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, but that could obviously actually lead to a worse result, because if Clark, you know, if he hugged somebody just with a little bit of affection, he would break their clavicle, their collarbone. So do you know what I mean? I think it's coming from that direction, like, in how you have to be careful. We also get more little references to, obviously, the world needing Superman and always needing Superman, and it looks like General Lane here is pushing a little Superman beacon, and it looks like there's a romantic kind of thing in the barn, maybe Lois's and Clark's first romantic meal at the Smallville Kent farm, and lo and behold, he has to go. But, you know, Lois doesn't really have a frowning face on or anything. She gets it. I'm glad she does. You know, because why wouldn't you? Because he's Superman after all. Now, these are the scenes I think we've all been looking forward to a little bit, or at least expecting in some way or another, especially when seeing the kids in the trailers, seeing the differences in how we have Jordan, who is obviously got a lot more issues than his brother Jonathan. But here we see Jordan getting pushed up against the lockers. And the amount of times Clark must have had to have, you know, I almost don't need to explain this, deal with that himself and not fight back with his Kryptonian abilities. But now we have Jordan, who hasn't known that he's been a Kryptonian, if you will, since 6, like Clark did, as they pointed out in the last episode. There's actually quite a lot of differences between him going through the same things, and surely you should think, oh, he should act like what his father did in high school, but it's not the same. Jordan's going to deal with it differently, which is why I'm looking forward to seeing it. And one of these things that is going to test his limits is being bullied, really. And we see him getting thrown up against the lockers by I think Sarah's boyfriend, because that's the guy who started on Jordan in the last episode, and Jonathan. I can tell how this scene is going to go, especially when we see that zoom out shot of Clark standing there watching Jonathan get... I mean, who does that? Like, maybe people do that. I'm not talking about Clark, by the way, but if you're bullying someone, not that I know what that's like, but you would have thought you wouldn't do it with the parent right there. But I suppose that's what's happening here. But as I said, the predictability of this scene for me is, I think he's going to be mega tempted to use some kind of super strength, or maybe even heat vision. I think he knows better than that, because you would literally have outright disintegration or liquefying human beings on the floor. But I think Clark might say something after this scene saying, I'm proud of you. I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. I know it would be so easy to make them shut up, but I'm proud that you didn't do that. That kind of thing. I could be wrong. It might go the complete polar opposite way, and we might see a Homelander scene from The Boys. Probably not, though. Now, also, another fascinating thing I found here with Jonathan saying this to Clark is, what's the point in having something special if you're not allowed to be or do something special with that? Now, you could take this one of two ways. He could be talking on behalf of his brother, which I think is the more likely thing. Maybe they're talking about Jonathan, or should I say Jordan, getting picked on earlier that day at school, and he could have done something about it, even just a little bit, to like tap him and then maybe throw the other guy in the lockers for using a little bit of his strength. And maybe he's saying, but why can't Jordan do that? What's the point in having that if you can't do that? It's that kind of trope, right, which we've seen on Smallville before, with Jonathan talking to Clark back in those days, where he wanted to do various things, or things that he could prevent, or whatever. Now, you could also say this is Jonathan talking about himself, because no matter what, he's going to get powers. It's just literally who's showing what when. I saw interesting comments in yesterday's video of my review and breakdown saying, what if it's a situation of Jordan is more like of the Kryptonian than human, and Jonathan is obviously a half Kryptonian and a half human as well, but he's got more of the human genes, so he will have some powers, but just not as much as Jordan. So I think they will come in. I don't think he's talking about himself here. If he was talking about himself, he would be talking about football, but we know that he's going to carry on football and that his parents endorse that. So I have to think, I know this is a weird breakdown just on this, but it's interesting when it comes to the kids, obviously, that this is him talking about his brother, and he's like probably assessing the fact that Lois and Clark haven't let Jordan use his powers at all, probably because they're completely petrified of what will happen if he does get used to it a little bit too quick, using his powers, that is, especially with the stuff that he has to endure mentally. Now, I really hope that General Lane here is saying when your dad gets distracted, lives are at stake. And this is a thing, if you're wondering about General Lane's role in all of this anyway. He's not going to be like a baddie, but he's going to be somewhat antagonistic to the family. He's going to be a good guy, but he just wants Superman as his lapdog. Because Superman, imagine if you had your own personal Superman to do anything for you, especially if you're a military guy, and you'd be getting all your missions accomplished left, right, and center because, lo and behold, your daughter is married to him. So you have the connection. So in this season, he's going to be like Lois's dad, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be approving of the decision that's been made. A, moving to Smallville. B, telling the kids that they're Kryptonians, basically, and all of this stuff. And what I'm hoping in this moment is when he's saying, when your dad gets distracted or whatever, lives are at stake. Is he guilt-tripping the kids? Like, that's pretty mean, because I don't see anyone else in this scene apart from the kids and General Lane there. And that's pretty, imagine making the kids feel bad if this is what's happening here, saying, like, you know, if you distract your dad too much with family time, like, you know, people are gonna die. I mean, the thing is, what I like about General Lane's role here is, and I saw this in the comments yesterday as well, I really wish I could remember this one comment because it was really profound in pointing out what I'm about to say. General Lane and Lois and the family side of thing, they're both kind of right. Like, General Lane is technically right here. If Clark is doing family things or taking time to himself, which he's perfectly entitled to do, whatever, right? He could be saving people, but when does that end? You know, Superman can't always be in his suit getting ready to go and listening out the door just in case something's going to happen. That's just not realistic. But Lois is also right with what she's saying, right? So as much as General Lane's going to be painted out to be a bit of a dick this season, I do like the very blunt, rational, and realistic approach he has with his stern words. But, you know, there's both sides to this, and that's what I respect and appreciate, and also look forward to seeing. This is why this show is quite a unique conception, you know? Up next, we see Captain Luthor break into what I'm assuming is a military base, I'm guessing. It looks like he's knocking out a bunch of either, yeah, they look like military guys. Now, I'll give you one guess. What's he doing? He's getting the kryptonite, and we've seen that in the other trailers. I'll see if I can pull that up on screen. This is the kryptonite he will be procuring, shall we say, to fight Superman. Now, the theories surrounding this guy are really interesting, saying how, yeah, everyone's saying it's Lex, but what if it isn't Lex? Completely on board with that. But what if it is a Lex from another Earth where Lex was the good guy and Superman was the bad guy? I love that idea as well. The only problem I have with that is, and maybe you could flesh this out a lot more than what I'm about to say, is, well, that would only take one conversation in terms of, hey, this is a different universe, man. I'm not evil. I'm Superman. So your quarrel isn't with me. But it would never be that simple. Maybe this Lex, even if he was a good guy and Superman was mega Crisis on Earth X evil on his Earth, he just still thinks, like, no matter what, you have the capacity to go evil because you were evil in my universe, so I'm going to kill you. Like, that would still be a really cool idea. I'd like to see that be explored. Like, Lex Luthor, or should I say Captain Luthor, being the good guy, and his world was lost, whether that's Crisis related, which I believe it is, someone said that somewhere, and he's probably crawled his way out of that world and that life, seeing people he loves and whatnot be destroyed by Kryptonians, or one Kryptonian, Superman of his universe. Imagine how much of a, I don't know, stigma you would have against the Man of Steel in another universe. But yeah, it is flawed, but I love these ideas, and we're gonna have to ultimately wait and see what happens with Captain Luthor here. We also see Captain Luthor's ship, I believe, blow up just outside Earth's orbit, and then we get another shot of Clark. Maybe this is the blast wave he's receiving. I don't know. It's very interesting that Captain Luthor would decide to do that if that is in fact his ship, just because, well, okay, but that's your ship. Where's your base of operations now? What are you gonna do? Was that your attempt to kill Superman? Who knows? On top of the stuff I was talking about earlier, this part in the trailer as well, we see General Lane say, where the hell is Superman? Once again, it's kind of rubbing it in, like he's thinking, Christ, really? This kind of mentions what I was talking about earlier with how he's technically right, but technically the family stuff is just as right, with how, are you really prioritizing family time right now when this is happening? Like, that is kind of right, but it's also, you know, I don't need to repeat myself. And then right after that clip, we see Clark throwing a football to Jordan, which is, you know, just highlighting what I'm saying. Like, he's doing something family-timey there. Obviously, these scenes probably aren't related, but, you know, in the cutting room, they deliberately put these trailer scenes together. But also, interestingly, we see Jordan there This is complete speculation. He looks at, you know, father and son, Clark and Jordan throwing ball, and he kind of just looks to the side. Now, this brings up the possibility of, even though he doesn't seem to be the jealous type and he seems to be like completely fine with no powers at the end of last episode, what if he isn't? Like, what if now he's been like the perfect child all of his life and he's always known he's had one up on Jordan, and now he's seeing Jordan, the one with powers, the one who's always been more or less confident than him, should I say, get all the attention, or a lot more attention, because obviously it makes sense because he's got powers now. He might not like that, and it's just making me think in this scene, maybe we're seeing the beginnings of that little drama unfold. Now, next up, we see Jordan saying to Clark, and I kind of feel bad for Clark, everything you do is a mistake. Just as I thought things were going to get better, obviously I knew something like this was coming. I don't know what this is. I hope there's a good reason. I know there doesn't have to be a good reason when you're dealing with mental health and things like that. That's what makes this all fairly unique in exploring this each and every episode. I just feel like Clark, from the viewer's perspective, is doing everything he can do. Now the kids know, Jordan knows, so it's just like, I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see. I know why this is happening. I just don't want to see this all season long. That's the only thing. You know, I know some of you understand that as well, and I know you guys know I understand why this is happening. I do wonder if in this scene, if Captain Luthor's helmet is going to come off and he's going to look at him saying, "Is that you, Lex? Or someone else? Alex? Or whatever, Luthor?" I don't know, but he does turn around and he sees that this structure up there is about to collapse. So maybe just as Clark is beating the crap out of Captain Luthor, of course, he needs to go save a bunch of people, and that's how Captain Luthor once again gets away in this moment you're seeing right here. Which does make things exciting for me because some people think, and I completely agree, it's not original to have Lex Luthor as the Superman and Lois villain, right? But there is more to this Luthor. It's like an alternative Luthor. There's some mystery behind him. Like, what is it? I'm very intrigued. So it's not your cliche Lex, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Also, in the promo photos, we get a look at Morgan Edge, just to, you know, revisit that from episode 1. And obviously, he's kind of, it's like a dual antagonist in a way, because you've got the big seeming bad guy who you can punch, so to speak, but you've also got the guy behind the scenes doing some mysterious stuff in Smallville. So that's what's happening with Morgan Edge, and I think that's going to be Lois's antagonist, if you will. And other than that, I really like the line at the end of the scene where Clark says, you know, I'm not going to waste any more time with my family. But he says, if anything goes wrong, I'll be there. And that's the kind of lines I like, you know, in terms of if you've heard me talk about the lines before. And lots of you guys have left some really well thought out responses that I really resonated with. And this is something I do. It's like, and it put things more into context for me last episode with some of the things I was kind of disagreeing with. So, for example, with General Lane, it's like when he came over in episode 1, that could have waited until the morning. That wasn't something happening right there and then. That was just some intel. So, like, I understand why Lois said what she did say. Like, you know, this can wait till the next day. But if something was collapsing in the world right there and then, obviously Clark would go out, and that's what they're saying here. General Lane keeps coming to Clark with things that he could help out with, but they're not necessarily pressing. Just like the intel he gave in episode 1 about the Kryptonian writing, this, that, and the other. He could have flown out to investigate it there and then like General Lane wanted him to, but you know, that could have still waited, and that's the whole point. He wants some more family time. But he will respond, as Clark says in this scene from a future episode, I'm not going to waste any more time with my family, but if something happens, I will be there. So Clark is basically standing up for himself now, not always going to be used by General Lane. General Lane has been probably getting way more than what he bargained for with Clark, like in a good way for him, as I was mentioning earlier with his military career. Like, sure, he will go to Clark and say, okay, this is happening, you need to help it now because there's a plane crashing. That's something Clark would respond to. But when there's something like, hey, can you just fly out and just look at this because I think this may have led to this. Sure, Clark should do that at some point, but not right there and then. Not right there and then. Either way, though, really cool trailer. I don't think every promo every week is going to be like this, just because they did say at the beginning, you know, and a sneak peek for what is coming up on Superman and Lois. I think that's going to be multiple episodes, maybe the first 3 or 4. I think 4 is a stretch, but who knows? Either way, it was fun doing this video. I loved reacting and watching it with you guys technically, and then doing my breakdown. But let me know what you thought of everything I had to say. about my theories, speculations, and everything like that, because I would love to know yours down in the comments. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with the notifications on so you never miss out on a video. And of course, as I always say, check out the top pinned comment. Nobody does, but check it out. That's where my links are, or if I have to say something after the video has gone out, just in case it's an update, I'll put it there. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.